The Manhattan skyline stretched before me as I stood in my penthouse office, watching the sun rise over the city that had witnessed my transformation. 10 years ago I'd been Julia Foster, the unwanted stepdaughter. Now, as CEO of Phoenix Industries, I was about to become my family's worst nightmare. Miss Foster. My assistant Michael's voice crackled through the intercom. The acquisition papers for Sterling Technologies are ready for your signature. Sterling Technologies, my stepfamily's biggest competitor and the last piece in my carefully orchestrated revenge. The company they'd tried desperately to acquire for years was about to become mine. Send them in, I replied, smoothing my Armani suit. As I waited, my mind drifted back to that fateful day a decade ago. I was 22, fresh out of business school with honors, sitting in my stepfather Richard Anderson's opulent office at Anderson Enterprises. Family business is for real family, my stepbrother James had sneered, lounging in what would soon be his office. Why don't you go find some nice entry-level job somewhere else? My stepfather had barely looked up from his papers. James is right, Julia. Anderson Enterprises has been in the family for 3 generations. Blood matters. Blood matters. The same excuse they'd used to exclude me from family vacations, business dinners, and eventually my own mother's funeral 5 years ago. Your mother understood, Richard had said at the funeral, preventing me from speaking at the service. Anderson affairs are for Andersons. What they hadn't known was that by then, I was already laying the groundwork for Phoenix Industries. Every rejection, every dismissal, every cruel reminder that I wasn't real family, had fueled my determination. Michael entered with the Sterling documents, his expression carefully neutral. He'd been with me since the beginning, one of the few who knew my full story. Everything's in order, he said, placing the folder before me. Though there is something you should know. James Anderson has been trying to reach you all morning. I smiled, picking up my Mont Blanc pen, a gift I'd bought myself after my first successful acquisition. Has he now? After 10 years of pretending I don't exist. He seems desperate. Apparently, Anderson Enterprises' bid for Sterling was rejected yesterday. Of course it was. I'd made sure of that, working through shell companies and proxy investors to outmaneuver them at every turn. The same way they'd maneuvered to keep me away from my mother in her final days. Miss Foster. Michael hesitated. There's more. Your stepsister Catherine is in the lobby. That made me pause. Catherine, the youngest Anderson, had been 12 when I left. The only one who'd ever shown me kindness, secretly sharing family photos and news over the years. Send her up, I said after a moment. But delay the Sterling signing by 30 minutes. Catherine burst through my office doors moments later, her designer clothes wrinkled, her face tear-stained. At 22 she was the same age I'd been when they'd thrown me out. Julia, please, she gasped. You have to stop this. The company, it's everything to them. I gestured to a chair, studying the young woman who'd grown up in the wealth I'd been denied. Sit down, Catherine. You look tired. Did you do all this? She asked, sinking into the leather seat. Phoenix Industries, the hostile takeovers, buying out our suppliers. Was it all you? I walked to my window wall, remembering countless nights working until dawn, building my empire piece by piece. Did you know your father changed the locks the day after Mom's funeral? Said it was inappropriate for me to keep coming to the house. I didn't know, Catherine whispered. I was away at school. I tried calling, sending letters, asking to just talk about Mom, to share memories. I turned back to face her. Your brother James said real family doesn't need to beg for attention. Catherine's face crumpled. They were wrong. So wrong. But destroying the company won't bring her back. No, I agreed, it won't. But it will teach them that blood isn't the only thing that matters in business. My phone buzzed, James again. This time I answered on speaker. Julia. His voice was frantic. Whatever they're offering for Sterling will double it. Triple it. Just please back off. Hello, James, I said calmly. It's been 10 years? Funny how you suddenly remember my number. This isn't a game, he shouted. This is our legacy. No, I corrected, it's your legacy. Remember? Family business is for real family. Those were your exact words. Catherine was crying silently now, watching as years of pain and planning came to fruition. Things are different now, James pleaded. We can work something out. Dad's willing to offer you a position. I laughed, a sound devoid of humor. A position? In the company that banned me from my own mother's office after she died? The company that erased me from its history like I was some embarrassing mistake. Julia. It's Miss Foster now, I cut him off. Or didn't you read the business papers? The ones calling Phoenix Industries the fastest-growing technology corporation in the country. The silence on the other end was deafening. The Sterling signing is in 20 minutes, I continued. Once that's done, Phoenix will control 60% of the market. Anderson Enterprises will be, what's the phrase, James? A yes, not real family. Dad wants to talk to you, James said quickly. He's here, I ended the call, turning back to Catherine. You should go. What happens next isn't something you need to see. She stood shakily but paused at the door. They were cruel to you. I understand why you're doing this. But Julia, what happens to me? The question hit harder than I'd expected. Catherine had been innocent in all this, a child when the adults around her had shown their true colors. Check your email, I said softly. There's a job offer from Phoenix's development division. Entry level but with real opportunities for advancement. Based on merit, not blood. Her eyes widened. You'd give me a chance? After everything. You were the only one who remembered my birthday, I replied. The only one who sent Mom's photos after they banned me from the house. Real family isn't about blood, Catherine. It's about choices. She nodded, understanding the gift and the lesson I was offering. As the door closed behind her, Michael returned with the updated Sterling documents. Everything's ready, Miss Foster. The board is waiting. I picked up my pen, 10 years of preparation coming down to this moment. Outside my window, the sun had fully risen over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of victory. One last thing, I said. Send a copy of the signing photos to Anderson Enterprises. I want them to see exactly who beat them at their own game. The signing ceremony was everything I'd dreamed of during those long nights building Phoenix from nothing. Sterling's board members sat on one side of the massive conference table, their expressions relieved. They'd been fighting off Anderson Enterprises' hostile takeover attempts for years. My team sat on the other, radiating the quiet confidence that came from being part of the industry's rising power. Just as I lifted my pen to sign, the conference room doors burst open. Richard Anderson strode in, his face purple with rage, James trailing behind him like the sycophant he'd always been. Stop this immediately, Richard demanded, his voice booming across the room. This signing is a sham. I kept my hand steady, signing my name with deliberate strokes. Security, please escort the uninvited guests out. You ungrateful little, Richard started, but froze as he really looked at me for the first time in a decade. Gone was the uncertain stepdaughter in discount clothes. In her place sat a CEO whose net worth exceeded his by billions. Interesting choice of words, I said coldly, passing the contract to Sterling CO for his signature. Tell me, Richard, what exactly should I be grateful for? Excluding me from my mother's deathbed? Changing the locks to her house before her body was cold? That was business, he sputtered. Family business. Exactly. I smiled as the Sterling CO signed with a flourish. And this is business too. Phoenix Industries now owns Sterling Technologies, their patents and their market share. Effective immediately. James stepped forward, his designer suit wrinkled from rushing over. You can't do this. The Anderson family. I'm not an Anderson, I cut him off. You made that very clear. Remember the Christmas party when I was 20? When you announced to everyone that Dad's new merger was more important than some stepdaughter's graduation? The Sterling board members shifted uncomfortably, watching the family drama unfold. My team remained professionally impassive. They'd all been chosen partly because they too knew what it meant to be underestimated, dismissed, excluded. The contracts are signed, my legal director announced. The transfer is complete. Richard slumped against the wall, his face ashen. You've destroyed us. Without the Sterling merger, our shareholders will panic. The stock will crash. Yes, I agreed, standing to face him. Just like you destroyed me when Mom died. When you denied me access to her personal belongings. When you erased every trace of my existence from the family photos in her office. That was James's idea, Richard said quickly, showing his true colors. He said it would confuse clients having a stepdaughter around. James's head snapped up. Dad, you told me you made that decision. I laughed softly. Amazing how quickly real family turns on each other, isn't it? Michael appeared at my elbow with a tablet. Ms. Foster, Anderson Enterprises stock has dropped 60% since the signing was announced. Their major investors are calling an emergency board meeting. Richard lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You have to help us. For your mother's sake. Security moved instantly, but I waved them back. Carefully, I peeled his fingers from my sleeve. "Bye, Mother," I said quietly, deadly. "The woman you prevented me from saying goodbye to? The one whose last words I never heard because you posted guards outside her hospital room. She asked for you." Catherine's voice came from the doorway. She stood there holding a small box, her eyes red. "I found her diary in the attic last night. She asked for Julia every day in the hospital, but Dad said she was too busy, didn't care enough to come." The room fell silent. Even James looked shocked. "Give me the diary," Richard demanded. Catherine walked past him, placing the box on the conference table in front of me. "Mom wrote you letters too every week after you left." Dad intercepted them. "They're all here." My hands trembled slightly as I opened the box. Dozens of envelopes, all addressed to me in my mother's elegant handwriting. All unopened. "You had no right," I whispered, looking up at Richard. "No right at all." "I had every right," he shouted, his facade cracking completely. "She was my wife. Anderson Enterprises was my legacy. You were nothing, just some reminder of her first marriage, a mistake I had to tolerate." James stepped away from his father, finally seeing him clearly. "Dad, what did you do?" "What I had to do," Richard snarled. "The company couldn't have some outsider claiming inheritance rights. Your mother was too sentimental, wanted to give her shares to Julia. Said she had the real business sense in the family. I couldn't let that happen." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Mom had believed in me, had wanted me to be part of the company. And Richard had buried that truth along with her. "Get out," I said, my voice vibrating with controlled rage. "Get out before I have you arrested for mail fraud, among other things." "You can't. I own your biggest competitor," I reminded him. "I control your supply chain through shell companies you never even investigated. And now, I have written proof of your criminal interference with private correspondence. Would you like to see how much lower Anderson Enterprises stock can go?" Security finally moved in, escorting Richard and James out. James looked back once, his face a mixture of shock and dawning horror as he realized how completely his perfect world had crumbled. Catherine remained, watching me as I traced my fingers over my mother's handwriting. "There's more," she said softly. "Mom left you controlling interest in her personal holdings, art, properties, investments. Dad hid the will, but I found it with the letters. She never gave up on you, Julia. Never." I closed my eyes, feeling tears threaten for the first time in years. "Thank you, Catherine." "What happens now?" she asked. Opening my eyes, I pressed the intercom. "Michael, implement phase 2. "Phase 2. Catherine looked confused. "Phoenix isn't just acquiring Sterling," I explained. "We're also buying up Anderson Enterprises' devalued stock through proxy companies. By morning we'll have controlling interest. By next week the Anderson name will be gone from the industry entirely. And Dad? James. They'll keep their personal assets," I said, thinking of my mother's hidden will. "But the company, their legacy, their pride, that belongs to me now. Poetic justice, wouldn't you say?" Catherine nodded slowly. "And my job offer? Still stands. Unlike some people, I understand that real family is about more than blood." After she left, I sat alone in the conference room, finally opening the first of my mother's letters. Her words, preserved for 10 years, flowed over me. "My dearest Julia, never let them make you doubt your worth. You have always been my real family, my true daughter." Michael knocked softly. "Miss Foster? The press is waiting for a statement about the Sterling acquisition." I gathered the letters carefully, placing them back in their box. "Tell them Phoenix Industries is proud to welcome Sterling Technologies into our family." "Michael, schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning." Topic: The complete restructuring of Anderson Enterprises. I smiled. Under its new name, Foster Global. That evening I stood in my office watching the sun set on a very different Manhattan than the one I'd woken up to. On my desk my mother's letters waited to be read. On my screens Anderson Enterprises stock continued its death spiral. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "I'm sorry. For everything. Please don't destroy what's left of our family." I thought of the years of exclusion, the pain, the lost time with my mother. Then I thought of Catherine offering truth when she could have stayed silent. "Family isn't about destruction," I texted back. "It's about choices. You made yours 10 years ago. I made mine. Check your email for your severance package." Putting down my phone, I picked up my mother's first letter again. As the city lights began to twinkle on below, I finally heard her voice again through her written words. She'd believed in me when no one else had. Now I owned the empire that had torn us apart. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about building something so magnificent that they're forced to watch from the outside, exactly where they once placed you. I opened my laptop to begin drafting Foster Global's new mission statement. After all, I had a legacy to build, one that would make my mother proud.